Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Daniel Schavey with Petal Pickers Flower Co. and I'm taking over for Lisa for Ask a Flower Farmer. So I'll tell you a little bit about my farm and what we have going on, and then I'm going to talk about our season and how it's been going so far. And then I'm going to answer all your questions that you have for me. So I hope you brought me questions. If you did, down at the bottom of the screen, there's a little bubble with a question mark in it. And if you just hit that, type in your question, that's where I'm going to pull all the questions from. And we're going to have a good time answering them to the best of my ability. But right now, I'm not home at the farm. I'm actually away. I took a little trip down to Florida, and so I thought this was a great time for me to do Ask a Flower Farmer Live when I had time just to hang out and not have a million things going on at the farm. But a little bit about me. So again, I'm Daniel Schavey with Petal Pickers Flower Co. I'm growing in Greenville, South Carolina. That is growing zone 8A. And we're located directly in between Atlanta, Georgia and Charlotte, North Carolina, to give you some reference. So our season, we are growing flowers from February all the way through about mid-November is what we can do. And then we're always planting throughout winter. And we always have something growing on the farm, but we're not always harvesting flowers. So our season this year has been interesting. And this spring, we hit a home run that was due to great weather and good planning on the farm. But we started off our season with an amazing crop of tulips, and we grow some of those out in the field and some of them hydroponically. And then we rolled into ranunculus season. That was beautiful, one of the best ranunculus crops we've ever had. We also grow poppies and delphinium and a lot of the cool hardy annuals. We have a whole section of our farm devoted to that where we have dianthus and snapdragons. And it seemed like our season just rolled perfectly from one crop to another. We end our spring with our peonies. They're blooming in April and around Mother's Day. And then things start to get a little tricky for us. So this year we did have a long spring. So really all the way through May, right into June, we had an abundance of flowers. We were well prepared for that. But then in June, something happened. The heat cranked up. It was like someone flipped a light switch and the rain stopped. So we went from a beautiful spring full of abundance to really struggling planting anything in our field. The ground was so dry, it started to crack. We didn't have rain for 6 weeks, and our temperatures went straight into the mid 90s. We even hit 100 a few times, and that was in June. June's an important time on the farm. That's when you really are expecting some of your first summer annuals to start blooming, and we just had a gap this year because it seemed like all of our spring flowers bloomed a little earlier, and then we just ran into this long period of drought and high temperatures. So how that affected our farm directly and in the biggest way is this year we had kind of planned to pull back and scale back on the summer annuals. We just realized that with our focus being retail sales tend to slow down a little bit in the summer. So we don't sell at a farmer's market. We ship our flowers nationwide to customers, but just so many people go on vacations, and also we sell at event florist and wedding florist, and we kind of see a lull with the wedding industry in the South during July and August especially. So we kind of scaled back on our normal routine of flowers, and we went all in on dahlias. We wanted to just have succession planting after succession planting of dahlias and just be rolling in dahlias this fall. And something that's never happened to us or our dahlias happened, and we were planting a U-pick field, and we were excited to invite the public out to our farm for the first time in 8 years. And we planted the entire field in one day. That field was probably about 5,000 dahlia tubers. And then we had some other sections on the farm we planted the following days as well. But you don't know what you don't know sometimes. I naively assumed that even though we hadn't had any rain for a few weeks and there was no rain in the forecast, I just assumed if you planted the dahlia tubers in the field that eventually it would rain and that's when they would start to grow. Because, we have stuff planned out on a timeline on our farm, and I'd already delayed the planting a couple weeks just hoping that rain would come. But eventually it got to a point where I said, we have to plant now. It is just time. I have a vacation coming up. This is our window of opportunity to get it done. So we planted our dahlia tubers in hot, dry soil. I remember that day it was about 90 degrees. The sun was just beating down on us while we were planting the tubers, and the soil was hot. Like, I always wear pants when I'm planting, I wear pants every day to protect me from the sun, but even with that, I could feel my knees kind of not burning, but they were really warm on the soil because that's how hot it was that day. And so we planted our dahlia tubers, we covered them up. The next day we were over 100 degrees, the actual temp. And I just thought eventually it's going to rain and these tubers are going to grow. I waited 2 weeks, I waited 3 weeks, and then week number 4, I really started to question, why is nothing sprouting up out of the ground? And we had installed drip tape irrigation. They were getting some water. But the conclusion of the story is we killed 5,000 dahlia tubers. We planted them all in that one day, and none of them grew. So that was really a big hit for us and a loss for our farm. On the other side of that, we had also grown the most rooted cuttings of dahlias ever. I don't even know why. Usually in the past, I stopped taking cuttings of dahlias in early May. I just feel like the temperature is a little too warm. They don't root as well. Well, this year we kept taking cuttings of dahlias and they kept doing well. They were rooting within 7 to 10 days, just like normal. So we just kept taking rooted cuttings, and we had taken so many that we had 3,000 leftover rooted cuttings. And eventually I just decided wow, we killed all these dahlia tubers in this U-pick field, but we still have these cuttings that we can plant in the ground and try again. There was still enough time in the season that I know we'll get blooms out of them. I don't know how well they'll do, if the production level will be just as high. That's something still to be seen. But anyways, it's just a lesson that's part of farming, and we cannot control the weather. A reminder to everyone, but we can have backup plans, and we can continue to work hard to get those in the ground. So one thing about cuttings, planting the dahlia rooted cuttings in the field in the middle of July, is that it's kind of hard. They struggle a little bit because they really need to be pampered. They don't love the heat. And like I said, we were in the mid 90s every day, full sun. So we had to take a couple extra steps when planting the dahlia cuttings to help ensure that they made it. We laid down straw in the field on top of all the cuttings to help retain moisture in the soil, and on the smaller cuttings to help protect them from the sun a little bit. We also sprayed a product. It's organic. It's called Surround WP, and it's a clay-based product. You mix it in a tank sprayer, and you can spray it all over your plants. We also use it on our transplants, our sunflowers and cosmos and amaranth in the middle of summer. Whenever we're planting something new out into the field, I don't always do it, but I try to spray it with the Surround WP because it acts like a sunscreen for the plants, but it still allows light to get through, and so that the plants still grow normal and healthy. So that's something you may want to look into. And anyways, I hope that the dahlias end up being great for us this fall. But there's just a couple things that in the middle of summer you really want to think about and take extra steps to help ensure that your crops can do their best and that you're giving them kind of a head start in the extreme conditions. Another thing that we've learned time after time is never ever plant a transplant in dry soil. So I thought that the dahlia tubers were a little different for some reason and that they would be fine. But definitely if you're planting your summer annual transplants that you've grown from seeds or you've ordered plugs in from plug suppliers, make sure that you hydrate and water your soil thoroughly, not just the top layer. Make sure it is completely soaked before you plant your transplants in, and that will really help alleviate some of the transplant shock and get your starts going better throughout the summer. And another thing that we have on our farm that we started the farm with is an irrigation system that's automated. So my husband Wes and I, we dug trenches across 8 acres of our farm and we laid down the PVC pipe. We had a well installed just for our farm, and we got the Rainbird timers that control all different zones. So right now I'm in Florida and I know that my farm, each zone is getting watered throughout the day right now because there's really not a lot of rain in our forecast, and we have this hurricane off the coast or tropical storm. I thought we were going to get a bunch of rain, but you just never know what direction those things are going to go, and it's kind of moved away so far away from us that we're really not getting any beneficial rain from it at all in our farm, even though the other half of South Carolina is getting too much rain. So it's always great to have an irrigation system. Control the things that you can control, and then do your best to plan around the things that you can't control, like exactly the weather and how the season's going to go for you. But to everyone joining, there's a question box at the bottom of this live. It has a little bubble with a question mark in it. If you tap that, you can ask me any questions you have. And for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be on here answering any questions you have. So let's get started with that. Jesse Graven has asked, why didn't you get a drone a while back that follows you? Would you recommend it? Curious which one it is. Okay, so she noticed that I did get a drone. I think I have this. Is it right here? Yes. I have it right next to me. How random is that? I brought it with me to the beach because we come down to the beach, but this is an investment property for us. So we rent it out on Airbnb throughout the season, and I thought this drone could really get us some good pictures and some good video. But this is the drone that I use that follows me around, if any of y'all are looking for that. It's a hover drone, and it was about $300 to $400, and mine's held up pretty good. It's lightweight, it uses facial recognition in the camera right there, so I just hold it in front of me and hit a couple buttons. You can control it on your phone, although what I like to use it mainly for is it has a bunch of preset settings on there, and that's something that really makes this able to be used without any controls, so that me as a farmer, I can be in my field harvesting something or doing some really cool shots for social media, and I don't have to control anything. I can kind of be the actor and the director at the same time by not having to have my hands on a controller in the field. So that's the hover drone. I have a link I need to put back up on my Amazon store. I have an affiliate link for it. If you go to the Petal Pickers Flower Co. Amazon store, you can find it there. All right. What other questions do y'all have today? Let's see. Are you still planning on opening a U-pick this year? So yes, but our schedule definitely got delayed and moved out. I wanted to do a dahlia U-pick because we planted this field on our farm just for U-picks, and it's something that I haven't seen other farms around me do. We have U-picks in our area and some really great ones at that, but I kind of have just a large inventory from really focusing on dahlias for the past so many years that we had enough dahlia tubers to allow us to just plant a U-pick field for the public to enjoy dahlias in the fall. So we're still planning on doing it. It's just probably going to be October, the first few weeks of October, the last couple weeks of our season, somewhere in there. And I haven't set dates yet because I'm just not exactly sure. A lot of it depends on the weather. And if we get some rain, that's really going to help our U-pick field to kind of flush out and fill in. And hopefully we can get some dahlias. But dahlias they really do well in September, October. So for us in the South, I see a lot of people growing them all summer long, and I kind of do too, just to keep up with all my other farm friends that are selling dahlias. I kind of want people to know that we're going to have a large selection of dahlias every fall, so I grow them early as well. But what I've learned is they really look their best September, October, and outside of those seasons, it's kind of a struggle for dahlias. So even if you have them in your yard and you're gardening at home, if you're in the middle of July and your dahlia plants just look rough because it's too hot for them outside, give them a cut back and they will regrow and reflush with beautiful new stems, and you'll have amazing, gorgeous dahlia blooming in September, October. And so we are still planning on the U-pick. It's just going to be on a different schedule than when we had originally planned. Okay, what's my most profitable plant? I think that is going to be different for everyone. So if you're asking me what your most profitable plant is going to be, my answer may not be the same. But sunflowers are very profitable for us on our farm. The seeds are cheap and they're pretty easy to grow and harvest. And who doesn't love a sunflower bouquet in the middle of summer? So I would say sunflowers can be your most profitable. Lysianthus can actually be a really profitable crop for people as well, especially if you get multiple flushes of them throughout the season. Ranunculus is something that I really grow, and it just gives you so many stems per plant, per corm. It can be a little trickier to grow, so it's not going to be your most profitable if you have a lot of disease issues or they're not growing well for you if your soil quality is not good. There's a lot of variables, but ranunculus can be a very profitable crop if you have a great harvest that season. All right, next question. What seeds do you suggest to start now for next season? So we haven't started any seeds on our farm. There are seeds that I've started around this time in the past. You're wanting some stuff that needs winter vernalization, meaning it needs the cold temperatures through winter, and then it'll really take off next year and bloom nicely in the spring. So I've ordered a lot of plugs this year just to save me some of that seed starting. One of the things I've ordered as a plug is yarrow. So there's a couple different varieties of yarrow that do really well. Like I love the summer berries variety. And there's a couple other ones that are really great too, just depending on what color palette you're wanting to grow. Yarrow is one that I would start now. Anything that's going to come back for you. So like I've been taking some cuttings of mint right now, and we've started rooting that. If you have some perennials, fall is a great time to plant. It's the best time to plant your perennials. And so for some of that stuff, you can start ordering it in and get it planted in like September, October, but it just depends what your climate is, where you live across the country. For me, we're still hot then, but our nights start to cool off a little bit in September, and that makes it a better time for us to plant. Electron dianthus is a seed that you really have to get it growing, starting it in like July or August. Right now, it may even be a little too late. You want it to be a decent sized plug before you put it in the ground for fall. And I grew it one year, the Electron Dianthus, and I don't think it got enough vernalization during winter. I'm not sure if that's because I didn't start the seed early enough or if we just had a mild winter, because it did not bloom that following spring. It just kind of sputtered and gave me a few stems here and there, but it was an entire row in our field. So I actually kept it, and then it bloomed like crazy the following spring. But that was a lot of work that we had to put into it with weeding it and just not getting any profit off of it for an entire year. So that's one I kind of watch out for now. I really love the Amazon Dianthus because it has always given me a great crop when I've planted that. And you can continue planting it in spring and into summer, and it can take the heat, it can take the cold temperatures. It's an amazing flower for us to grow. And that was I go down a lot of rabbit holes answering these questions. I'm going to try to speed it up because we got 10 minutes left. Wondering about foxglove and lunaria, too late to grow for overwintering. Any tips? I don't think it's too late for foxglove. And for foxglove, you can get the Dalmatian series, and I think it's the Foxy series. Those don't need the whole vernalization during winter, so you can plant those and just keep them protected. They're not able to take as cold as the true biennial foxglove, but that's an option for you. You might want to look into doing the math and calculating, is it too late to start true biennial foxglove from seed? But if it is, then you have the other options to grow the Dalmatian series, and those do great as well. I think I'm trialing just starting the foxglove by planting it mid-winter, kind of after we get our worst, coldest temps of winter. Because for me, I haven't had great luck with the Dalmatian series and stuff. It just seems like it needs a lot of protection if we have a drastic drop in cold temperatures during the winter. Lunaria, I think you can sprinkle those seeds out and they'll grow. It may take a season or two for it to bloom, but Lunaria is one that's a biennial. All right. I started campanulas and something ate the starter leaves off the top of all the sprouts. So do you know if they'll continue to grow and produce the first true leaves? I'm not sure exactly. I bet they will just grow new leaves. It's almost like you pinched them. And I think that'll be completely fine. They have a long time to get through until next spring. And we try to plant our campanula in November. So you have a large window. Again, we're in growing zone 8B, but it seems like you have a lot of time for your plants to regrow, and I think they'll be okay. And then if you don't see anything growing within about 2 weeks, I would give it, then you may want to start some more. All right, does the cool flowers concept apply to heat-loving group 3 and 4 snapdragons, the Potomac, should you fall plant? So we planted in our climate the Potomac series last year, and the Maryland, I think, is another warm, I think it's a group 3, group 4 series. But really, I try to plant all of them in fall, and then they're gonna bloom like a week or even sometimes less than a week apart from each other. And so I like to have the Chantilly because I think they're a 1 or 2, and then I do the Madam Butterflies or a group 3, and then the Potomacs or 3 or 4. So I really try to spread those out, and all of those that I just said make it through our winters just fine. There is some of the group 2 snapdragons I've had issues with in the past, and it's not coming to the Costa series. And I think they've actually changed the name from the Costa snapdragons to, I think they have a new name, but I've learned that those are best just to start in the spring because they seem to die out during winter in our area. And I'm not sure if that's just our soil stays a little too damp throughout winter for them or if it's the cold that they don't like. But the Potomac is a great series. And so if you want to succession plant those, then plant them in the fall, plant them again in February around Valentine's Day. And then you could even, if they're group 4, you can even plant them a third time, probably in April, to get them blooming in June and July. So try that out. Here's a question. Struggling with germination temperatures for overwintering flowers with the greenhouse being too hot in August. We have shades to keep it cool, but can't afford industrial cooling. Absolutely, you cannot afford industrial cooling. So what I did is I have a grow room with grow lights, and I tried putting an air conditioner in there, like one that you buy at the hardware store, that it kind of sits in the corner, has an exhaust that takes the heat out, and that would cool my room just enough that I could get stuff to germinate. But what it also did that was a negative is it pulled the humidity out of the room. And so I would have to mist my plants throughout the day to keep them from germinating. And ultimately what I decided is there's not many of the cool season flowers that we grow from seed anymore in fall. So we order a lot of our fall planted stuff through plug growers. And then we will, once the weather cools off, then we start our own seed production on our farm in our grow rooms, in our greenhouse. And that seems just to work best. But yeah, just it depends on where you live. Everyone's going to be a little different. In South Carolina, I can plant transplants in the ground, in the field, all winter, unless we have like a winter storm on top of us at the moment. But really outside of that scenario, we can always plant in the field. And if it's cold in the middle of January or February, we'll add frost cloth on top of that to help protect those plants after we transplant them in the field. So plugs may be the way to go for you to get some of that started in fall. All right. Do you grow calla lilies, and when do you plant them? I don't grow calla lilies, but I do think it'd be fun to start trialing them. I'm not sure. That would be one to ask Dave Dowling. I know right now he could tell you in a heartbeat. He knows the answer to that. Do grass clippings make good mulch around plants? I don't see why it wouldn't. I think it would make a great mulch, except you have to make sure that it hasn't gone to seed and you're putting all that grass seed right back into your row. But just if you're staying on top of it and mowing your grass before it goes to seed, I absolutely think that would be a good mulch around plants. Leaves in the fall, if you can collect those, are the best. We put some straw on top of our dahlia cuttings. We don't add a ton of mulch to our rows throughout the summer. I try to make my raised beds with the Bio 360. It's like a corn-based film mulch that goes on top of the rows, and that has really helped me a lot. It helps retain moisture, helps the weed pressure stay down. So there's a few options for mulch. I've even used pine needles in the past, although that can get a little expensive. So definitely use the cheaper stuff that you can, but don't use hay because hay is filled with seeds, and all those will germinate and you'll have a weedy nightmare on your hands. All right, how do you start dahlia cuttings? So basically we take a dahlia tuber and we warm it up by putting it in one of our grow rooms or our greenhouse in around 70 degrees. And so that'll wake the dahlia tuber up and it'll start to grow sprouts. And then we literally just take our fingers, and when the sprout's about an inch long, after it has like its first set of true leaves, then we'll just pinch that off of the dahlia tuber and stick it in soil, and it should start to root. We do keep them on like a heat mat, although that's not necessary if you're keeping your greenhouse warm enough to promote the rooting growth. About 70 degrees is good throughout winter or early spring, but it's that simple. You'll see a lot of people online using special clippers and knives and different ways to like specifically get the cutting, but get a slice of the tuber on it. That'll help make it root faster. And what we have found is not to do any of that, because any tools that you're using can transmit virus very easily. And sometimes it's just better to pinch the sprout off of the dahlia tuber and stick it into dirt and grow. But definitely there's more information to help you out along with that. That is the very generalized version of taking a dahlia cutting, but I hope that helps. Another question, do you have social media like a TikTok? Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I have a TikTok. I've posted videos there. I'm definitely not active on there. I'm mainly active here on Instagram at Petal Pickers, so make sure you go follow me and go look through our reels and stuff. We try to have a lot of fun here on Instagram, but also share information to help home gardeners or other flower farmers, and hopefully that works. I have another question here. What's your favorite flower? Someone's knocking at the door. I think we're getting a package. Let me keep doing this and see if Wes will end up getting them. But what's your favorite flower? So my favorite flower is Dahlias and Ranunculus. Maybe tuberose too, because I love the way it smells. All right, I'm going to end this. Answer the door. If y'all have questions, repost them on this live, and I'll be happy to come back to the live and answer them in the comments section. So thanks for joining today, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks.